Happy holidays from all of us here at Wealthion to all of you. I'm one of your hosts here at Wealthion, Andrew Brill. We took a look back at this year and hope you enjoy these favorite guest moments from one of our best interviews of 2024.
Let's talk specifically. What do you think the Federal Reserve does in the year 2025?
Well, I've been arguing for quite some time now that the economic data did not tell the true story. And in fact, that's why I believe Trump was elected. I mean, if the economy was as great as Powell claims it is, as the media claimed it was, as Biden claimed it was, Harris would be the next president. All the exit polls showed that it was a pocketbook election, that people were voting for change because the economy and inflation were the number one issues. And the economy and inflation are only the number one issues when they're bad. If they're good, nobody cares about it, and they vote for other things. So I think we're going to continue to get weaker economic data, like all the data we got today was extremely weak, from the ADP numbers to the ISM numbers, factory orders. I mean, I think we're going to keep getting more downward revisions to a lot of the numbers. We've gotten multiple downward revisions now to the non-farm payroll numbers over the past year and a half. I think it's very possible that we've been in a recession for most of 2024. And I think that will continue into 2025. And so as the data gets stronger to support that, the Fed is going to try to continue with its rate cuts. But I am expecting a return to quantitative easing. Now, I was on a panel down in New Orleans like a couple of weeks ago. And on that panel, Danielle DiMartino Booth was there, and I mentioned that I thought we were going to have a return to QE. And what she told me is, no, they can't do that unless they go to zero first, that somehow they can't launch quantitative easing unless they have a zero bound. Now, I had never heard of that before, but it's my bet that if that's what the rule is, they're going to violate that. Because I don't think they're going to be able to get back down to zero, but I do think they're going to restart the QE engine, because I think that they've already lost control of the long end of the bond market. Because one of the forecasts that I made that I got right recently, I was saying that when the Fed cuts rates, that was going to be the bottom of the long-term rates and that they would go up. And that's exactly what they've done ever since the Fed cut rates. Long-term rates have gone the other way. And I think that's going to continue. And that's going to be very problematic for the Fed because it's going to be harmful to the economy, to the housing market. And when we're in a recession, or when the recession gets worse, I think the Fed is going to be pressured to try to lower long-term rates. And the only way it would be able to do that is by buying the long-term bonds. And the only way to get the money to do that is to print it. So I think we're going to have a resurgence of inflation. We're going to have a weaker economy, stagflation. That's the one thing that, of course, the Fed has no plan for. I thought it was, almost humorous. And even it got a laugh out of Powell. A reporter asked him at the last press conference, "What's your plan for stagflation?" And he laughed and said, "Our plan for stagflation is that we're not going to have it." And so they're just hoping that there is no stagflation. But that's unfortunately where we're going.
Here on Wealthion, give us an update on where you are. I saw you actually at one point express some regret. Typical trader in you. You were like, hey, I regret not buying some, right? Because it went up. But I really want to talk about the fundamentals and the risks associated with cryptocurrency from your opinion. Give us that update from your mouth to our network listeners.
Yeah, I get a kick out of like some of the crypto people trying to make something out of the fact that I say, oh, I regret not buying Bitcoin, as if I've changed my opinion. I mean, obviously, when I first learned about it, and I don't remember exactly what the price was. I forget if it was above or below $1. I mean, I really can't say, but it was around $1 when I learned about it. And I had money. It wasn't like I was poor back then. I had money. So I could have put 10 grand, 100 grand. I could have put something into it and I'd be a multi-billionaire today, assuming I hadn't sold it. But, I don't know what I would have done had I bought it back then, how much I would still have. I mean, I have no idea. So it's hard to say. But clearly, I should have taken a chance on it, and I didn't do it. But that doesn't mean that I believe in it. I mean, just like I have underestimated how big the bubble can grow with U.S. debt. right? How much money the world would lend us before we had a debt crisis. I overestimated, I guess, the intelligence of individuals, and now companies with respect to understanding Bitcoin. And, I had no idea that the bubble could get this big. I think what's really happened recently, you had two things. You had the introduction of the ETFs and Wall Street coming in and buying up Bitcoin. That pushed up the price. I mean, obviously, nobody is buying Bitcoin in an ETF because they want to use it for anything. No, they're not using it as a currency. They're just gambling on appreciation. And I think that kind of started to wear off. And then, of course, you have MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, single-handedly. I think he's bought in the last month 11.5 billion more of Bitcoin, a lot of it with borrowed money, but the rest of the money he raises just by, selling shares of stock. So he's just been this crazed buyer that not only has pushed up the price, but has caused a lot of other people to buy it, to front run his buying, to try to, make money off of the buying. And now you have, Senator Loomis introduced this ridiculous bill to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve, which there's nothing strategic about Bitcoin, and we certainly don't need to have a reserve of it. But I think that the potential for this, and you had all these guys down at the Bitcoin conference in Nashville, RFK Jr. and Trump, paying homage to the Bitcoin crowd, really pandering to that community, promising them this Bitcoin reserve, which is really a payback for their donations and their support. But I think that the prospect of the U.S. government buying, 1 million Bitcoin, regardless of the price, just buying every single month and never selling. The Loomis bill says you can't sell that Bitcoin for 20 years. I mean, what kind of reserve is it if you can't use it? But with all this stuff happening, I mean, that's really what's pushed up the price of Bitcoin. But I still think it's a bubble. I still think it's not digital gold. I mean, Powell got that wrong today. He was asked about Bitcoin, and he said he doesn't see it as a competition to the dollar. He doesn't see it as a currency. He said it's just like gold, which it's nothing like gold. So he doesn't understand gold either. That's another thing Powell doesn't get. But I do think it's going to collapse. Yes, a lot of people made money on Bitcoin. A lot of my neighbors have made a ton of money on Bitcoin here in Puerto Rico. You probably know some of them, and they always like to tease me about the fact that I didn't get all that. No,
Dan Moorhead. So not to be self-promotion, but Dan, I wrote this book. Dan came to the book party last night here in New York.
Yeah, he's here.
I guess I would say something to you that I would ask you to consider and get you to respond to. And I guess, and there are people out there who say that there's more uses for gold than just jewelry and there's some industrial uses, and I accept all of that. But is there a database? A bank is a database. A bank is a spreadsheet. It's a regulated spreadsheet. You have your assets on that spreadsheet. I have my assets on a spreadsheet. Mm-hmm. I move assets to you. There's a spreadsheet. Is there a case to be made that this is an impregnable, fully distributed, fully decentralized spreadsheet, and that there's value in that network? And as tens of millions, if not now hundreds of millions of people are on that network, that there's value in that network. And so that would be the Robert Metcalf explanation of the network effect, where you say there's no value in that network. So Bitcoin's value is zero.
Look, they like to compare Bitcoin to the internet, right? And the beginning of the internet. Well, Bitcoin came around in 2009, 2010. So, it's, what is it? 15 years it's been around. And, I know in the first 14 or 15 years of the internet, I noticed a very big difference in my daily life. I went from never using the internet to constantly using the internet. In fact, today I can't even be without the internet. I mean, I'm on my smartphone all the time. The internet is probably the most important thing in my life, as far as something that I use, something that adds value to what I do. In contrast, Bitcoin has been around for those 15 years and it hasn't changed a thing. I mean, other than the fact that some people have gotten rich because they bought it a long time ago, and other than the fact that if I turn on CNBC, all I see is Bitcoin commercials and people talking about Bitcoin. As far as in the real world, it's done nothing. It's changed nothing. Blockchain has changed nothing. Crypto, nothing has changed because of Bitcoin. So, you have a cult, you have all these conferences and people go and talk about it. I was just over the weekend, I was in St. Bart for Thanksgiving. I come on the plane to come back, the little prop plane, and the pilot sees me, says, "Oh, when you going to buy Bitcoin?" The guy's mining Bitcoin in his spare time. He's flying this plane for a living. He lives here in Puerto Rico. But I mean, apart from people trying to make money off of Bitcoin, it hasn't done anything. So I don't see the value. Michael Saylor, I see his interview, goes, "It's the only asset in the history of the world that has limited supply." No, I mean, has he not noticed that there are hundreds, thousands of other cryptocurrencies? Many of them have supply caps exactly like Bitcoin. I mean, and there's an unlimited number of cryptos that somebody can create. You can create one, I can create one, and we can limit the supply to whatever we want. So the key is not limiting the supply. The key is the utility of the asset that you're limiting the supply of. Gold is the most useful metal in the world. So, there are more uses for gold than any other metal we have. It has properties that are very unique to gold and that are very special and that are very valuable to mankind because of the things that we can do with gold. But there's nothing unique or special about Bitcoin other than the fact, yes, there's a lot of people who believe in it now and who have built up all this computing power and this huge network around Bitcoin. But my belief is the main reason that all of this capital has been wasted and misdirected into Bitcoin is based on the belief that the price is always going to go up. And that's the whole basis of the MicroStrategy strategy of continuously buying higher and higher cost Bitcoin with more and more borrowed money because it's never going to come down. Because if Bitcoin goes down, MicroStrategy is bankrupt. But, no one cares because Bitcoin can only go up. I mean, we finally invented an asset that has no downside risk and can only go up, right? I mean, where have I heard something crazy like that? So I don't see the real value there. I don't, I make payments all the time, very quickly, with my credit cards. I've used Zelle, I use PayPal, I use Venmo. We have all kinds of ways that I can send money instantly anywhere I want. Very quickly, costs nothing. I don't see where I need Bitcoin to do any of that. Nobody uses Bitcoin for that. And so I don't see what value it actually brings. I mean, it's a sexy story that everybody tells to try to justify the price and getting people to buy it. But in fact, they've already admitted that it's not good as a medium of exchange. Nobody even pretends that anymore.
Thanks again for watching these favorite moments of 2024, and we hope we can continue to provide you with information that'll help you invest wisely and be financially resilient. Wishing all of you a healthy, happy, safe, and prosperous 2025.